What's going on, guys? My name is Joe Graves, and this is So You Want to Be a Rockstar. I'm joined by my two co-hosts, my dear brother, Sam Graves, and our one and only friend, Mike Kingswood.
On this show, we talk about all things music related, from touring to music production, and just generally anything in the music industry that we like to talk about.
And if that sounds interesting to you, please like, share, or subscribe. But most importantly, enjoy the show.
Right, guys, what are we talking about today?
Well, I've got a pretty good idea.
Tell me.
What started this is so Ben Wilkinson from Envisions. He's one of my closest friends. I work with him every single day. He got Heyman, and I don't know if you know what Heyman is.
Yeah. Let's start with an explanation. What's a Heyman?
You've got to watch out for the Heyman. You never know.
If you've ever been in the band, you'll have experienced the Heyman.
The Heyman
came riding.
It's kind of like the Highwayman, but the Heyman.
Yeah, the Heyman
came riding.
Yeah.
And you'll never get Heyman more than if you're in a decently successful band and you post a tour.
Do you know what? I've never been Heyman since not being in a band. That's a total fucking lie. When bands want revisions and strands. Yeah.
Heyman. So yeah, Ben got Heyman.
Yeah.
And it was, hey man, so I'm in a band. I'm not talking any shit on this guy, by the way. I'm just, just saying what happened.
It's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question. And he said, hey man, so I'm in a band. I just want to know, like, when do you start making money from this?
End of joke.
Oh boy, how long do we have? All right.
How smart are you?
There's a lot of things about that, mate. One, if you're doing it for money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I mean, it's art, it's creativity, it's about what you want. It's not, you don't do it for money. What happens normally is if you do something real and authentic, people connect to it, and that's how it works. They'll buy it because they believe in it.
Well, this is the thing. Important to clarify. Bands can get to a point, and they often do get to a point where they're self-sufficient. They will make enough to cover costs and running operations and whatnot.
This is what I mean.
Profit, very different fucking story.
Very different. Okay.
And it's getting worse, I believe. To my understanding, COVID absolutely killed everyone off in terms of like all the roadies and engineers couldn't work, so they all got jobs and they didn't have to be away from their families for 11 months a year.
There was a massive shortage of crew.
Yeah.
To the point where when I was doing the bullet stuff, there were that bouncing between like architects and people bouncing off, and they were like, architects were like, we don't have, it was something like this, don't take my word for it, it was like, we don't have a drum tech for a massive tour because everyone's got jobs and gone, that's an unstable industry that literally can shut off in a week, like the whole thing shut down.
It would be safe to assume though that, well, not safe to assume, but perhaps maybe architects, that level of band, maybe they couldn't find a crew member that they knew and trusted and knew could do the job.
It's not just about finding any dickhead, is it?
You don't just want to bring somebody that you don't know last minute.
A lot of them do circulate.
Yeah. Techs will often spend more of the year on tour than a band because they'll hop from band to band.
Yeah. Get some techs on here would be a good show, you know.
Yeah.
Scotty Finley, let's get him on.
Yeah, 100%. But getting back to the point of when you start making money, this is the beauty of being in a band. It's not a rinse and repeat thing. It's not, there aren't set systems and processes quite like there are for being a joiner or whatever. It's, well, how good are you at buying shit and selling it in excess of running costs? That's it. If you can make enough hype about, your T-shirts where enough people want them, you buy 1,000 at a tenner a pop and you sell them for 20, well, there you made some money. But that's it. You've got to be an entrepreneur within the fact that you're in a fucking band.
You also got to make that merch order again sometime. It's right. Being in a band, the business can make money. You can generate some decent cash touring, obviously. Like a band I know went on tour with a very big band, and they were support, and they made about 16 grand. And it wasn't a long tour, which is good, but the costs were 14 grand. And they've got a sound guy, and they've got a TM. This is what I mean. So you take that profit. Your band ain't get paid. No one's getting paid. No band member is getting paid. You might, at the end of a tour, get like a 50 quid bonus or something like that. But yes, of course, there's a threshold that you can pass where it's a stable income and it's your job. But generally speaking, lads, no, you don't make money in a band. You don't. It's the hardest part of being in a band because everyone thinks you're rich, but you're not. You're probably at your mum's house still.
I do remember being on a tour when I was younger, and however the conversation came up, I can't quite remember, but whoever I was talking to was shocked that I didn't have a swimming pool. Honest.
I've got a fucking bath, dude.
That is not a lie.
It's shocking.
Yeah, I have got a swimming pool. Yeah, it's a pee bath.
So I've got to blow it up every time. But yeah, I mean, I remember Glenn were playing in Buffalo in New York, and I was sound checking, and I looked over at the bartender, and I was like, that looks like a familiar person to me. I went to Dave, I was like, mate, is that Keith Buckley from Every Time I Die? And the thing is, that might have been choice. It might have been his choice, I don't know. But Keith Buckley was working the bar, peak Every Time I Die. That's what we're talking about here. I'm not just going to assume that he was poor, but maybe he was just trying to make a few extra bucks in between tours. But yeah, generally speaking, most bands that you like and you listen to have jobs. They have to go and get bills somehow, pay the bills. But generally speaking, most bands that you listen to and you like have jobs. And that's just the way it is. There's not that much money in the music industry anymore. Like,
oh no, there's tons of money.
Top scale, of course there is.
But there's also tons of people after a slice.
Yeah, everyone's always after a slice, aren't they?
Yeah.
It sounds like we're trying to shut people off from trying to be in a band. That is definitely not the...
No, it is, right. It is amazing. It's one of the best things you'll ever do. Going on tour. It's travelling the world with your pals.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm in my 30s now, and honestly, I mean, one thing I don't miss is the headbanging, but I miss the playing the gigs and the excitement. The thing is that with the excitement of playing the shows and getting the tours and getting your name on those posters, when you are on tour in the middle of nowhere, sometimes no signal, you've got 23 and a half hours of the day to kill. And that's the hard part.
In a small van filled with
farts,
people's asses, filled with dudes fueled by nothing but KFC.
Yeah,
for 2 weeks.
Filled with dudes that
the diet is not good.
maybe at this point in their musical career can't afford to be buying hotels every night.
Yeah,
as you say, it's things you factor in, budget. There's so much money you have to make, and then the band can break even. So going on tour doesn't cost you personal money, but it costs you what you're making as a band.
But it's just anything could happen as well. You might get pulled over and weighed, and they fine you €500, and you're like, cool. Honestly, that happens all
pulled
the time.
over and weighed, the bus or the human.
Individually.
You are fat.
€500 now, fat man.
That's another really difficult part about touring, because you've got a tiny little shitty van, and you've got like 8 people. It's already overweight without suitcases or like backline or anything. And you're like, well, no one's got a fucking BE license. You can't tow a trailer without a tachograph. Do you know what I mean? So you just ram the van and get pulled over. And that you have to. Now it's getting to the point where you have to factor that in as a cost. You're going to get pulled over and you're going to get fined.
Yeah.
But the whole like expenses things, like Vision's a great example. They're just a blowout. They weren't expecting that, and that was a cost that they had to. Do you know what I mean? They were like, oh shit.
Were you with them then?
No, it was Johnny. Johnny Mennel was out with them. But there's just a lot of costs of touring. Like like you can do about $2,000 a month on merch or something like that. But yeah, that's paying for the next merch order.
Well, this is the thing, is it? $2,000 is a lot of money, but not when it's in that big grand scheme. You know,
the members are the last people to get paid, unfortunately, unless you bullet from a Valentine.
Well, that's actually an interesting point. At what point do you cross that threshold? I mean, we've all know, we've all got pals in bands that do make a living, a very good living from it. I guess I've not had in-depth conversations with them, like when did it happen, what happened, you know. But I do know, I've kind of pieced together, there's a lot of things they stop having to pay for before making enough to pay for shit. For example, your gear, you know. I can't remember who said it, but it's like, you know, I'm now at a point where I don't need to buy my own gear, you know, and you know, everyone's just giving it to me sort of thing. Or I can afford it now, sort of thing. Everyone's just giving me it. And
it is backwards that the bigger you get, the more free stuff you get.
Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense in terms of like, you know, endorsements and whatnot. But it's just, it's sad, isn't it? It's unfortunate how brutally uphill it is. And I think that's where you were talking about earlier, like how you have to love it. If you don't love it, there's no way you do this shit.
Yep.
There's no way, because it's savage.
Difficult. Yeah,
it's savagely hard.
Very exhausting. Not only like just being away from everyone. Do you know what I mean? Like it's physically exhausting touring, like low level touring in a sprinter. Everyone's. Do you know what I mean? There's 7 of you. You're probably on 50 to 150 euros a night, not each. For the band, do you know what I mean? You're probably worried about the fuel cost to get to the next show, do you know what I mean? You rely on merch, and if venues take a merch cut, absolutely criminal as well. You solely survive on fans. But honestly, if you want to support your favourite band, buy the merch on tour. Seriously, that's how they survive. You can't afford the hotel rooms. You're Jengaing, you know what I mean? Everyone's, whatever, it stinks. Your back hurts. My back is absolutely fucked from touring. That's it.
Sure
Sleeping on a gear stick.
You sure it's not from old age?
It's just physically exhausting. And then sometimes it'll be like shit shows as well, do you know what I mean? And oh, God, it's hard. It's hard work. But also, at the same time, it's memories with the boys, you know what I mean? It's irreplaceable memories.
Of course, yeah, there's never a dull moment, is there?
No, yeah, it's a laugh.
Never.
I remember, one of my friends sadly passed away, and all the school friends all met up, and I went to Tad Grammar. We all met up. They're all like tradies and stuff, you know, all done well. Their own companies, plumbers, plasterers and all that, and they've got a lot of money. One of them owns a very big house in Askham Bryan. It's not a cheap place, you know what I mean? I sat down, they're like, I wanted to hear about my life and career and all that. They're like, oh, mate, I'd do anything for that. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, you drive a fucking Porsche, dude. Like, you, after school, went and made money. I went on basically a binge and had a laugh and, yeah, of course, played some amazing stuff, done some amazing things. But it's what you value as what's important to you. They're like, their memories, all they just did was work. Obviously, they've got a family and they're happy, whatever. But they wanted to experience that. And I'm like, that is weird because... Yeah, I would like to have what you have.
Yeah, you do now that you're sort of done with it.
Yeah, this is the thing, mate. Like, I've got friends or I've met people along the way, or they might have come in to record at the studio with us. Any variation of that, anyway. But they say, they might make money or they might roll up in a nice car or whatever. But a lot of the time they'll say, "Oh, I wish I could do this every day," or "I wish, or I do know one fairly well-off dude and." He said he would do anything to have got out on tour and played drums and tour in a live band and stuff like that. And after, say, on the flip side, me doing that for plenty of years or scraping, literally, I mean, scraping to get by at times. And it's like you'd do anything for the sick car and you'd do anything for, for the easy being able to afford your outgoings every month. And it's like, you can often find yourself wanting what you can't have. But then people want what they can't have, and it's exactly what you have. Yeah. So going back to what Mike said right at the beginning, if you love it,
that's circling back round. If you're doing it for the money, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. It's about the love and passion of wanting to play music and people hear your music. That's why you should be in a band.
Yeah. Well, even like being financially wealthy, like rich as a musician, is still peanuts compared to like. Some people I know who run companies. We have clients who fucking dwarf what legit top dog rock stars make. You know what I mean? So it's even if you are like the creme de la creme rock star, it's still not like like you. No, it's still not like it's not fuck human. It's nowhere near it. Yeah. So it's it's like you say, becoming a musician to make money is just a terrible idea. You can get to that point, and we should touch on this as well because, like I say, we do all have pals that make a living from it and have done for many many years. It'd be interesting to kind of speak to them actually and say what was the crossing point, because I do know also there are bands, there can be like 5 people in a band. Sometimes one dude's making a lot of money, that happens a lot.
Oh, I hate that so much.
It's a strange thing, isn't it? But at the same time, you don't know the story. What if one person's doing everything? Because there are situations where there's always situations where there's a couple of dudes there that are just there for the ride, and they're just lucky to be kind of, wow, look at me, I've never written a song.
Most bassists.
Most bassists, yeah.
I'm saying nothing.
Something, I remember having this conversation with bands all the time when they're in the studio. They believe it's backwards. They believe it's how it used to be, which is I'll do a shit recording, a crappy demo, I'll send it to someone, like a label, and they'll go, hey, this is great. Here's $1 million.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's maybe how it worked a long time ago, before there was literally thousands of times more bands than there was back then. Now it's like you fund everything. Your music isn't actually worth anything. That's why it's on Spotify now for 0.000 whatever pence per listen.
That, dude.
Probably, yeah, which is it's sad. But if you recognise that and work with that, there are ways to make money. So it's basic business. If you talk about sort of funnels and the sales process, it's like, okay, how do people hear about you? Your music is now that. And there's no point trying to sell your music because the big bands, they're all on Spotify too. You've got no chance, basically. If you accept that, you can move with it. So put it on Spotify for free and get it to as many people as possible. Build a fan base. That's it. Don't try and sell your music. Not just yet. People like owning things like physical CDs. That's great, but they're for like hyper fans, like people that super love you and want to collect your merch and all that. But really, it's about doing the shows now and selling as much merch as you can there. People have like Patreons, private, sort of membership sites and all that. And these are ways you need to start getting creative. A lot of people use their name as a band as like a platform. There's like people will become famous from a band. They don't actually make money from the band, but because of that, they can do things like art, or they can be producers on the side. They can mix your music.
Twitch streamers,
anything like that. So using your band as a platform to be like, hey, I'm famous. There was a thing I heard recently, like, so the concept lead generation, finding new people to sell to. Everything's downstream from leads. So if you've got enough people, if you've got 10 million people that love your band, you can make money from it one way or another. If they're all interested in it, you can sell things, bits and bobs to them. You can give them guitar lessons. Wasn't someone from like maybe Escape the Fate doing that a while ago, like giving guitar lessons, or like Black Veil Brides? They were doing things like that in the downtime.
I know that bands, some guitarists used to do it on tour. I remember watching
that.
They'd do like, I don't know, back then it was probably just a mailing list, I guess. Students used to come and they used to sit down with them and actually do guitar lessons at the shows on tour.
So it's exactly that. Don't try and make money from the band directly. You will be able to passively as you get big enough, but it's more about the platform you've created, and you can use that as like, hey, I'm famous. Do you want to? It was a very similar thing to what happened with us when we were in a band. Obviously, we weren't famous, but we got a bit of hype, and a lot of people were adding us on Facebook and wanting to chat to us. And that's the only reason our studio got off the ground, because we had instant access to fucking loads of people, just because people knew who we were. And we had something to sell. It wasn't really our music. It was our service, our recording service, our mixing. It was that. So it's maybe not so obvious, but I think accepting that your music it sounds brutal, but it's not worth money now.
Ed Sheeran, I'm sure he said something about that once upon a time. He said something about, I make my album as how to get people's attention. I know it sounds stupid the way I've just said it, but
no, that's right.
That's the slow way to get people to like you. And then when they start coming to your gigs, buying a gig ticket, buying a T-shirt, buying merch, buying into it from that point.
Signed drum heads, things like that.
There is actually something that we found out really late on in Glamour's kind of touring life was we did a complete DIY tour, as in there was no agents. We just did everything. So we booked the venues, we booked the bands, we provided the riders and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? We just fronted everything, and that's the most money we ever made. Was doing it ourselves because there wasn't 300 people going, all right, mate.
Yeah, but
me. You know what I mean? I was like, what? We could have done this the whole time. It was literally our last tour.
Yeah, but not the whole time, because your band was most likely.
That only works if you can sell tickets, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Your band was in a position where you knew you could go and sell at least 100 tickets there, 100 tickets there, 120 there. So you're kind of thinking, the cost of the venue hire versus I know we'll sell 120 tickets. You'll make massive on that. Whereas like if the promoter's booking you, the promoter takes the risk. Yeah. I'll agree to pay you £500
less than if you did it yourself.
So you were obviously in a position where you knew you could confidently book every venue yourselves, cover that cost, walk away with the profits.
But so that's actually a good tip. If you can sell out shows, do it yourself for a little bit, as in just book the venue, book the, because the venue normally provide the security as well, book the security, provide the riders, provide fees to the bands and stuff like that, and you'll actually make more money than being on a tour from an agent.
Well, this is an even more downscale version of like what you just said there, but I remember we would always do that before we went on tour. So before Man and Joe's band would go on tour, we'd do a local gig, a hometown gig, we'd make it a longer gig, so there maybe be like 5 supports on. It's like, it's not being tight. They get to play a gig to a lot of people because, you can play. You got to sell 30 tickets, and I will pay you a percentage of the money per ticket, but you've got to sell tickets to play it. So then 5-6 bands selling 30 tickets maybe each. That's going on for like 150 tickets, and then we knew we'd sell 150 without having to go and do that. Or maybe we did go and do that at times when we had to. We really would grind. We'd be going and meeting people in town on a weekend and selling them tickets, like
college.
Yeah.
That's literally what we did.
So,
not 35, no.
So we would do that to essentially fund a tour. In a way, it wouldn't pay for everything, but it would get us started off. It would afford some hotels, it would afford some fuel, and it would afford
the rare hotel.
yeah, and it would afford
7-person in a travel lodge.
maybe like 100
They're not staying
t-shirts.
over, I promise.
It would maybe fund like 100 t-shirts to get going. And then, you get to the point where we did get to this point and we didn't like it ultimately. You do merch deals with Impericon or something. And yes, they'll ship you t-shirts out, or they take a huge cut.
Yeah, it's like 30 or 40% or something. Right?
I can't remember what it was, and it was probably different for every
we had
band.
one as well. I think it was in Impericon as well, mate. Yeah.
That's obviously how they make
Either
money.
way, I didn't make any money. Someone did.
The way you just said the rare shower there, I'm thinking when we went on tour with Mice and Men, and I remember it being like 16 or 17 days, and I think we got one hotel in the middle. I mean, we were having wet wipe showers.
Oh yeah, back of Aldi, yeah.
No, in the venue. Yeah. Leaning over the sink, pouring bottles of water on my hair that I could barely afford. It was like rider water. There's 7 of us, 16 bottles. Do I use it for my hair or do I drink it on stage?
Or is it for my gooch?
Is this a gooch water or a stage water? Hopefully never get them mixed up.
It's a funny thing though, isn't it? Because you have to make these decisions. Like you said, do it yourself. You could because you're in that position. When you are a much smaller band and a label comes knocking, and you're like, oh, go on then, because you just want that prestige of having a label. You want to be able to go and tell everyone, I'm signed. It's so tempting. And it can be a good idea because it can open up doors because it's connections.
The thing is, not so much anymore, just because of everyone can do it yourself now. You know what I mean? But the advantage of a label is the network the platform that they can immediately showcase you to is obviously a lot more appealing. Like the playlists on Spotify they can get you on and whatever. But generally speaking, you don't really need a label anymore. Do you know what I mean? You just need to people. There's one screwed on person in the band. Just get him to do it, mate. It'll be fine. You know what I mean? You don't. It's not the be all and end all being signed to a label. It used to be because they would give you $1 million for a 10 track, but now you're looking to get 5 bags, mate. You know what I mean?
Do you know what people forget to tell you as well about getting a huge advance from a label? It's a fucking loan.
That's not your money.
It's not your money. You've not just been paid. It's
a loan,
Yeah, 35 grand that you now owe.
Yeah.
And if you don't recoup it, what happens? You still pay it.
Yeah. Fucking so silly, but no, but you have to make those decisions. Like, is it worth it now? It's like we do it now sometimes. You know, when we're getting new clients in, part of our sort of lead gen method is we'll give them free tests. We don't get paid for it, but then they see, it's worth it. So we make money off the back end of it. You don't always make money off everything, so you have to kind of go, this manager wants to work with me, this label wants me. Is it worth it just to get us up with the big boys, then drop off and do it ourselves? Because that's kind of what you did passively, is it not? You had the help of managers and labels and whatnot.
Yeah. No, this was right at the end. And when we knew, we're gonna call it a day. Well, I'll tell you what happened. We went to America for too long, and then we kind of got home and we felt the decline. And it wasn't that we were like dipping out, but we'd been touring for 10 years, and we were like, I'm tired, man. Like holding down a relationship was difficult. People wanted to get married, and it's like, honestly, we just finished a 9-week tour or something in America with like Escape the Fate and Alessandra or something like that. And we were on the way back to LAX airport, and Chris got a call from our agent. Right, boys, what the good news, the bad news? And he was like, what? It was like, good news. He was like, you're off on tour with Papa Roach in Europe. We're like, nice. Bad news? He was like, it starts in a week. We were like, cool. Literally, girlfriend's like, oh my God, I can't wait to go. All right, darling. I'm off again. Bye.
So much silent treatment.
Funny enough, none of those relationships last. Weird.
Well,
weird.
All that time away, it does wreck relationships.
That's what I mean. It's hard. It's extremely difficult.
So top takeaways: you're going to lose everyone you love. You don't make any money.
Yeah, you won't make any money, but you'll probably see a lot of boobies.
No. And if you book a local gig, you can make £448.
Yeah.
To start your tour.
Yeah. But that's another thing I wanted to say was that it's actually easier to be in a local band than it is to be in a breaking band, because of in a breaking band it's out of your control. Then when you get a call whatever from an agent or a manager, it's a business now. You don't. Do you know what I mean? It's literally.
And you're not going to say no to a tour with Papa Roach.
Do you know what I mean? You have to do what you're told. Basically, you have a bit of say. You could say no, obviously, but.
That's fucking stupid.
That's stupid. It's everything you've been building towards this whole time. So, holding down a job, not easy. We were lucky enough to find like people that understood. I worked at the Cockpit at the time, RIP, and it was run by musicians and people that fans of music, and they didn't care. When I got a tour, I was like, I'm off on tour for 6 weeks. They go, nice one. See you when you get back. And that was my setup. But it's not really sustainable. Do you know what I mean? As an adult man. And so the longer it goes on, it's hard. It's like you have to tour more because your band's getting bigger. You've got more fans. You're still not making any money, but you've got to tour as soon as your agent tells you you're touring. But all your bills at home are still exactly the same. Your rent don't change.
Hang on, let's not keep saying you don't make any money. You just don't make enough.
You don't make
Slight exaggeration there.
The business makes money.
So I guess to end on a high, and it really is a high, and we're talking about, getting out there, making money on tour. This is actually slightly different to playing in a band, and I was lucky enough to start my touring career, I guess, by guitar teching, and it was for Mike's band. And this was on the same tour where we wrecked a hotel room, but because the band card was on the desk, we had to get up and tidy it before we left.
Oh my God, look what a rock star we had who would trash this room, but please stand up.
Put it back after that.
It was because, this wasn't the reason why we did it, but you had a Jägermeister endorsement, and they would give you a box of stuff per show.
It was a bottle. It was like hand warmers, stickers, lanyards. Those little foam things with the test tubes. Remember them?
Yeah, so you can do the test tube shots.
We did it was like a 38 date tour.
I remember seeing the box, 38 boxes.
It was on a
that wasn't the tour that I did. It was a headline tour for you, and so basically, at the end of the tour, after trashing a hotel room and this, that, and the other, I remember
Then putting it back.
I remember you guys saying, guys, we've made enough money to actually pay you some, because I went for no money. I went for the experience.
For the
and
bands.
yeah.
For the
and I remember, I remember, it was either 50 or £100.
Thanks for all your sacrifices and hard work, Sam. Here's 50 quid. Fucking idiots, man.
Yeah, but that was the most fun £50 I'd ever made at that point in my life, Yeah, it was amazing. I got to go out on tour. Yeah, we're dicking around every night, and
it's the start of a journey, isn't it?
It was the start of something. I mean, actually, I guess we didn't include it in the last episode, but that was really a start of me taking a band seriously, because I was so jealous of watching these guys on stage that I wanted to do it myself. I was having a great time, but it was a little bit depressing, sorting the guitars out in front of 1,000 people, and then just as things are about to kick off, I have to go and stand around the back of the curtain and wait till they snap a string.
Drink my beers.
And drink some room temperature Carlsberg.
And drink one of Mike's 7 beers.
Can I just ask before we wrap this up? Those Jaegers, you were meant to give them to people, weren't you?
I don't know.
They weren't for you. So as punishment, what happens is you became an alcoholic and ruined your life.
Yeah. It was real good. Everything's great. Yeah, it's great.
Just poured it in my ass instead.
True story. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, tales for next time.
Right, let's call it, boys.
Yeah.
Boys,
All right.
nice
So
one.
if you guys found that interesting, thank you so much for watching. And if there's anything else you want us to elaborate on, I'll talk about next, please let us know. And thank you very much. Speak to you next time.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.